Have you ever wondered what the world looked like millions of years ago? Before fire, before tools, before humans even knew what it meant to be human? A time when the earth was still finding its rhythm, and our earliest ancestors lived in a world teetering between chaos and awakening. It was a time of immense silence, not because life was absent, but because danger moved without sound, through tall grass, along riverbanks, under the cover of twilight. This was the Miocene's final breath and the Pliocene's first whisper. And in this ancient age, something hunted in the dark. The land was not yet ours. In eastern Africa, where tectonic plates slowly tore the earth apart, valleys stretched into hazy distance, broken by forests, savannas, and rivers swollen by the seasonal rains. Herds of ancient antelope grazed warily in the open, while giant proboscideans, relatives of today's elephants, moved with a slow, thunderous grace. The air carried the scent of damp soil and the musty perfume of flowering shrubs, while the sky above pulsed with migrating birds, painting shifting shadows across the ground below. Among this sprawling wilderness moved an upright ape, small, cautious, and entirely unremarkable at first glance. These were the Ardipithecus, among the earliest of our kind. They walked upright but still climbed trees for safety. They didn't speak, not with words, but with glances, gestures, and instinct. Every day was a gamble between hunger and survival, and always they listened, ears tuned to the rustle of leaves or the sudden silence of birds. Because something else lived here too, something unseen. A predator neither massive nor monstrous, but gifted with patience and shadow. It didn't roar or charge, it waited, it learned. It had eyes built for darkness and feet that left no trace. To this early world, it was a ghost. To our ancestors, it was a nightmare. And as the sun dipped low and the savanna gave way to creeping twilight, these small apes huddled in trees, staring into the dark, feeling its presence. They didn't yet know it, but the fight for dominion had already begun. Nightfall was not a time to rest, it was a time to fear. For the earliest hominins, darkness was a veil that belonged to others. They had no fire to drive back the shadows, no tools to defend themselves, no language to share stories of what lurked just beyond the reach of their eyes. But they had each other. In the fragile quiet of the trees, they clung together, small arms wrapped around smaller bodies, muscles tensed not for attack, but for escape. And beneath them, moving without sound, the silent predator watched. It wasn't a great cat. It wasn't a saber-toothed beast, crashing through undergrowth with fangs bared. No, it was something subtler, sleeker. Machairodus, an early saber-tooth relative, not yet the iconic giant of later eras, but deadly all the same. With eyes adapted for low light, it could see the world in gradients of dusk, where others saw only black. It didn't need to chase, it waited, it studied, and when it struck, it was fast, terrifyingly fast. These early humans never saw it coming. One moment, there would be a quiet rustle, then silence, save for the soft thump of a broken branch, the startled cry of a troopmate, and the heavy final exhale of the taken. But here, in fear, began something remarkable, a new kind of memory, not just instinct, but recognition. They began to associate shapes in the dark with danger, began to feel anxiety not from immediate threat, but from its possibility. These were not the reactions of simple animals. This was a brain beginning to map the world in new ways. They started to move before sunset, seeking higher branches, avoiding certain shadows. They began to choose their sleeping trees carefully, wider trunks, fewer paths for predators to climb. Their feet, adapted both for walking and grasping, clung tighter as they looked out across the horizon, scanning for patterns. In this ongoing battle between hunter and hunted, something shifted, not in muscle or bone, but in the mind. Fear was no longer just reaction, it became preparation. And preparation is the seed of intelligence. Even as the predator prowled, silent and sure, something was stirring in its prey. A quiet revolution, one that would, in time, change everything. The predator still hunted, and the nights remained long. But something had changed. Over countless generations, these early humans, fragile, slow, and unequipped for violence, began to see further than any predator ever could. Not with sharper eyes or keener claws, but with something infinitely more powerful: imagination. They began to anticipate danger before it arrived, to remember paths through the trees, to recognize safe zones and gather in small, trusting groups. They had no spoken language yet, no names or stories, but they had gestures, murmurs, warning cries, and a growing ability to read one another's fear. Fear, once paralyzing, had become communication. And from that shared awareness, a bond formed, not just of survival, but of understanding. A mother teaching her young where to rest, an elder choosing higher ground after losing a companion, a group moving with synchronized silence at twilight. These were not just instincts, they were the beginnings of culture. Tiny decisions passed from one mind to the next, one generation to another, carved not in stone, but in behavior. The predator, still silent, still deadly, had unknowingly shaped the minds of those it hunted. It had forged sharper senses, deeper connections, and above all, the drive to adapt. And in time, adaptation would become invention. Fire would come, tools would come, and eventually, weapons. The hunted would become the hunter, not through strength, but through memory, reason, and the unrelenting desire to survive. Though Machaerodus and its kind would eventually vanish, swallowed by the same turning earth that had once given it power, the memory of being prey would linger. Even today, deep within us, are echoes of that time. The unease we feel in dense forests, the way our eyes scan darkness when we're alone, the stories we tell about monsters in the night. These aren't just fiction, they are fossils of emotion inherited from ancestors who once peered into the dark and saw something waiting. And yet, without those nights, without that fear, we may never have become who we are. Intelligence did not begin in triumph. It was born in terror, shaped by survival, and sharpened by silence. It began with a predator that hunted in the dark, and a fragile creature that chose to see.